But every time I hear about Nasbandi back in the 70s, bro, what was happening? Like, how are people like, okay, mere Nasbandi kar do?
It didn't work, right?
Yeah.
And, in fact, it torpedoed the conversation about fertility rates for the next 30, 40 years. Nobody wanted to touch it. Nobody wanted to talk about it. And now the population has gone down. TFR has gone down because of economic circumstances. I have always found that, playing God with fertility rates is very dangerous. These things have a way of compensating themselves. Fine. In a pre-industrial society, in an agrarian society, it would lead to societal collapse. Okay,
Right.
the food sources would not be enough to match the population, and a civilizational collapse would happen. But this is neither the day nor the age for civilizational collapse to happen. So what happens is economics catches up, and in places where you had insane fertility rates, like 6, 7, Kashmir and Punjab, you're now down to 1.4, 1.6.
And that is purely because people have money now.
People have money. They realize that mera bacha marne nahi wala hai. Because remember, this was a time, it was an intersection where in the 60s we were living ship to mouth.
Right.
Okay? We didn't know when we were going to starve. And Lal Bahadur Shastri actually called for people to cut down to 2 meals a day to 1 meal a day and things like that.
Wow.
Yeah. And what ended up happening was, all of a sudden, you have very drastic decreases in infant mortality. And suddenly in the 70s, because of the Green Revolution, you have food security for the first time.
Right.
Now, this is a society that's coping to deal with it. So they're still having more kids because they're not sure about the medical system. Because if they had 6, 7 kids, then maybe 2 would survive.
Right.
Whereas now all 6 survive.
Yes.
And you're able to give them food.
Right.
And it took about 20, 30 years for that to sink in. And then, what Narasimha Rao did with liberalization and the middle class that it generated, which wants to provide, not just produce kids, because they're no longer worried about if the kid is going to survive or not. They want to see to it ki bacche ka acha education hona chahiye. They should get into colleges and things, so they're saving up money and things like that, which means you don't produce more than 1 or 2 kids. So that entire thing of, liberalization, urbanization, better healthcare, or at least massive reduction in infant mortality, combined with food security. I mean, one kind of food security.
Right.
Food security is much more complex than that. But,
Right.
that controlled the population irrespective. Now, you look at the way China did it, which is the forced one-child policy.
I think that's so ruthless.
It's ruthless, and it's created such a massive problem for them, because you now have an inverse population pyramid. They were counting ki boss possibly we will reach a stage where we're $30,000 to $40,000 per capita, and then for every $30,000 to $40,000 per capita child, we'll have to support 2 parents who were used to living in
At
$5,000
10
to
to
$6,000 per capita.
Right.
That's not happened. They're stuck at $10,000 per capita. And now a $10,000 per dollar capita child will have to support 2 parents with massively increased life expectancy for a much longer period of their life, without a social security net, earning $10,000 to $12,000, supporting parents who are used to a lifestyle of $5,000 to $6,000. 2 parents, $5,000 to $6,000, you're done.
Yeah, well, there is something to be said. I mean, what am I to know about it? But there's something to be said about not playing God with extremely complex systems like this.
Yeah.
Right?
You
And
shouldn't.
I remember when I was in China, my dad told me about the one-child policy, and my question naively when I was maybe like 12, 13 was, to inke bhai behan nahi hote? And even that to me was so heartless that, the government does not allow you to have a brother or a sister. Wow. What a strange notion. But to add to that, the fact that
Why,
this
do you
was
get along with your brother?
my sister and my brother. In fact, I get along with all my siblings.
Acha, there kitne siblings hai?
So I have one younger sister, but my dad and his best friend, we've lived together. He's like my uncle. His children are like my brother and sister. So I've always known them like that. In fact, the closest sibling I have, and I don't know, Didi, if you're ever watching, is my older sister. I've gotten along well with them. I can't say the same about them getting along with me. That has always been complicated. But not only that, yaar, मेरे को फिर भी कितना strange notion है कि we know psychologically that single child has like a larger set of issues to face because there's a lack of company, there might be lack of attention and so on. But I didn't know that this was an economic policy.
It was. And see, they never looked into the psychological health. In those days, you never thought it.
And China doesn't look like the country that will care about it.
Right. Now, this would have automatically become one child long back. Imagine India has become a sort of a 1 to 2 child country at just about $2,600, $2,900 per capita right now. What is it? Some
2.5 lakh rupees, roughly. $3,000.
maximum.
Yeah.
We've become a 1 to 2 child society. China would have become that naturally at a $2,000 to $3,000 phase. And yet they persisted on and on and on and on without looking at the downstream consequences. They never looked at the psychological consequences. I'm a single child. I don't think I have
Bro, you have a lot of
psychological
issues. You have a lot of issues.
Yeah, I have to. And well, I mean,
Fair point to say I love you also.
yeah. But you see, it's my issues that make me kind of
Interesting.
Interesting.
You are so interesting.
हाँ, तो यही बात है.
Right.